Hi everyone, welcome to Art Bites, little tiny bites of art history. Today we're going to be talking about the Proto-Renaissance in Italy. Renaissance means rebirth, and so in Italy in 1420 there was a rebirth in art. Proto-Renaissance was that period before the actual Renaissance that led up to this huge explosion of art. The Proto-Renaissance period was between 1200 and 1400. Within the Proto-Renaissance, you kind of had three major themes. The first thing is you had a lot of Greek and Roman influence, and you can see that in the type of statues that they were creating at the time. Another thing is that Italy was a hotspot for trade, and so artists could make a ton of money by being in Italy and selling their artwork or working for somebody who wanted to create some type of artwork. Also, there was some unrest in the Byzantine Empire, and so that was why there was a lot of artists that were coming from the east and landing in Italy. Also, the third thing that was in the Proto-Renaissance was that there was Gothic architecture and Gothic art moving to Naturalism. The Gothic architecture, it moved from France, and so it was called the French Gothic architecture. And so it was characterized by vaulted ceilings and by stained glass windows and also by arches that were super huge, because the main purpose of this Gothic architecture was to get closer to God. Now, it didn't work too well for the people of the Tower of Babel, but it worked pretty well for the French. So this Gothic style really seemed to have God and the authority of the church as the focal point. When the shift was being made from Gothic architecture and artwork to naturalism, you could see that even though the subject matter was the same, there was still a sense that the artist was not trying to make the subject matter more divine or closer to God, but actually closer to a human depiction. So even though we would still have the subject matter of the Madonna and the Christ child or the apostles, they would look more like people and less like angels. So there's three things that I think are pretty important when it comes to naturalism. And the first thing is the depth of the shadow. You could see, for example, on the Madonna's face that there was more modeling from light to dark and dark to light than actual linear shadows. So the shadows on her dress or the shadows in her face would be more realistic and less just like a bunch of little lines put there. The second thing is you had lifelike accuracy. These artists were trying to get these people to look like people instead of just divine figures that had super long noses and super long fingers. So the proportions were actually pretty decent. And also, this is where perspective actually made a huge difference and became really, really different. Instead of having artwork that had perspective from multiple sides and you didn't really know where you were in the painting, there was one perspective that was put into play. And so that way the viewer knew I'm looking up at the Christ or I'm looking down at the apostles. And also we see that some faces are distorted because they're behind others. And so the dimensions really took shape in this era. So I hope that helped you understand the Proto-Renaissance, and we will be getting to the actual Renaissance soon. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like, subscribe, comment. Don't like, don't subscribe, don't comment. Be true to yourself. Later.